Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here and welcome back to another Anthem video. If you guys caught my coverage for this during E3, then you'll know that this is a game I am super looking forward to, and it's a game that I said I will be adding to the channel. So for those of you guys that like my coverage for similar games like Destiny and The Division, you can expect the same level of coverage for Anthem. And with that being said, since all the E3 madness has died down and I'm back and have had a chance to get caught up on everything, I thought it was about time to do a quick news roundup of all the most recent Anthem news that surfaced in and around E3, outside of the initial gameplay reveal trailer during the Xbox conference. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below and let me know what you guys think of all of this. Now to begin with, let's talk broadly about the future. During E3, in an Xbox Daily interview with Major Nelson, Patrick Soderlund from EA said that BioWare had been working on Anthem for about 4 years, and he confirmed that EA sees the launch of the game as the start of a 10-year journey. Sound familiar? Well, if you're a Destiny player, that is pretty much exactly what Activision said for Destiny. And to be clear, I don't mean that in a negative light. On the contrary, I think that's a good thing. We're clearly seeing a shift in gaming and the industry to a lot of these online persistent world style games being rolled out as games as a service. You buy the base product, then over the following months and even years, that base game is expanded on. Sometimes with free DLC, more often than not through paid expansions, but for these types of games in particular, it can often work really well, depending on the content they add. Needless to say, in this day and age of what I like to call MMO light style games that have aspects you would see in traditional MMOs without requiring, say, anywhere near as much time and dedication, knowing that games like these have a long life plan ahead just reassures players that there will be support for the game if they choose to invest heavily in it. Destiny as a game has built such a strong community, and with each new piece of content, that community just gets stronger and stronger. And knowing that in the grand scheme of things, Destiny is only just getting started is a pretty cool thing to be a part of. So when applying this to Anthem, sure, right now we don't know a great deal about the game, but myself and a lot of you included are already pretty excited based on the limited gameplay we've seen, so should this turn into another great franchise, then it'll be comforting to know that it's something we can be a part of for many years to come. Something we can build a community around, so that is pretty sweet. There was also this pretty awesome bit of concept art that popped up on Twitter, one of the Javelin in the game. As a reminder, Javelin is the name of the mech suit that you'll pilot in-game. In Anthem, you play as a freelancer, and in order to leave the safety of civilization, you use Javelin to navigate your way around the environment, to fight, and that's of course where a lot of your abilities come from. During the gameplay, we followed the Balanced unit, a decent all-round Javelin good for multiple types of engagements. Teaming up with that was the heavy Juggernaut-style tank unit, bigger, bulkier, slower, but more than likely good for, being up front and kind of holding the line. However, during the drop-in multiplayer segment, 2 more players jumped in, since parties in Anthem support up to 4 players. And one of the players was a variation of the Ranger unit, the Balanced unit. However, the player on the right, Sandra, appears to be playing as this unit here. Now at this stage, not a great deal is known. It's much more of a slimline unit, akin to that of, say, a rogue or an assassin, or maybe even a mage. There are also different configurations on the arms. What I can only assume are perhaps fire, lightning, and ice elements. Interestingly, if you pay attention to the player when they drop in, their names show up on the right, and next to them they have an icon. It may well be that certain Javelin units have an associated element, or is something you can spec into, which in itself might be important for team composition. But either way, speculation aside, this Javelin does look pretty badass, and if it does end up being a stealth melee DPS style unit, that is definitely gonna be me. I mean, since the kind of energy in this particular picture is focused on like the right arm, it might well be that you're able to kind of channel the energy into punches or attacks like that. That could be so awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more from this unit. Also, something else worth considering when thinking about Javelin abilities as a whole and the way that they will play out and behave in game is that there will be plenty more scope in this game for them to be pretty over the top and outlandish. In an interview when talking about the theme for the game, Aaron Flynn, general manager at BioWare, describes the game more as a science fantasy than a science fiction. It's much more in line with something like Star Wars or the Marvel Universe than it is, say, Mass Effect, which was a little bit more hardcore science fiction. They said they want there to be like cool stuff going on in the world without necessarily worrying about the how and the why and the science behind it. So that means, space magic and the potential for kind of units that focus around more like fantasy focused abilities will probably be something we'll be seeing in game. So again, going back to my notion of like a powerful energy style punch, that could be really, really cool. Moving on from there, for those of you guys curious about some of the stuff you can get up to in the world, thanks to the Anthem Whispers Twitter account, we've got some nice vector versions of some of the activity icons. I will link their Twitter account down below, as well as a couple of others for you guys looking to stay up to date on Anthem stuff. The developers haven't actually confirmed exactly what all of these are just yet, but some of the symbolism is pretty clear. Some of it you can kind of infer what it might well mean. The skull icon, for example, is likely either some sort of world boss encounter, sort of like the enemy they were fighting in game. Alternatively, it could instead be some sort of dungeon-like activity that ties into, say, the vortex they fly into at the end of the trailer. The binoculars are for notable places you discover. You see them pop up when the player swims underwater, and they get this little pop-up here with some bonus XP. This in itself is pretty cool because it then rewards those players that like to go exploring. If you discover all the important landmarks, you'll get XP as a result, and I'm going to assume there may well be something else tied to it at the same time. Flags could be outposts, places to visit vendors. The more complex icons I'm going to assume are perhaps main story missions. And the final one, this actually links into the binoculars from earlier. We saw this again in the trailer when the Longfall ruins were discovered. Similar sort of thing, bonus XP and an on-screen pop-up. It might well be that the binoculars are for more general areas, like just exploring the environment. Meanwhile, this last icon is for specific landmarks. Those are of course just my thoughts. If you have your own opinions, be sure to share them down below. And then finally, the last thing I want to touch on is the loot system. We already know that the game will have a loot system similar to that of Destiny or Division. Killing enemies will drop loot, some of which will be high-grade loot, some of it will be, like crafting materials, other items, things like that. Of course, we saw Jara's Wrath dropping from the boss drop at the end of the game. However, one interesting thing to highlight is that loot is supposedly shared among your team. Now, this can be interpreted in a number of different ways. We're either looking at a traditional everyone gets involved, everyone gets loot type of shared model, so everyone benefits from their time taken, or we could be looking more specifically at a means to physically share loot among your team. Games like these, as of late, tend to steer clear of actual player-to-player trading, because if you've ever played an MMO before, while trading is fun and it's an important part of the game, it also leads to external outlets selling items for real money. Essentially gold farmers. People get rare items, they sell them through websites, and the whole thing gets a bit messy. So that's why games like Destiny don't have trading. And Division only lets you trade with your party within a 2-hour window of something dropping. So if you're, completing an incursion, an item drops, you then have 2 hours to trade with that fixed party. So if someone gets an item you want, you can then shuffle it around. The latter is a pretty nice system because, as mentioned, if something does drop for you, maybe you have it and your friend doesn't, and they really want it, then you can pass items around. So that is pretty cool. And of course, then it doesn't necessarily have to factor into the, the problems you incur with player-to-player trading in a more traditional sense. So quite how the shared loot system will work for the time being will still remain to be seen, but as and when we know more, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But anyway, for the time being, that is a quick roundup of some of the more recent Anthem information. The next time we'll be seeing gameplay is Gamescom, which is in August, so that's not too far away. I'm hopefully going to be at Gamescom myself, so I'll be sure to get all the information for you guys then. But until then, keep it locked if you want to stay up to date. Thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.